What did Muhammad get right? Muhammad's view of human reproduction is just as bad. According to Muhammad, semen forms between the backbone and ribs. That's wrong.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Welcome to Islam for Dummies. Today we will be talking about a scientific fact mentioned in the Quran regarding the male reproductive system. It is important to point out that while the Quran is not a science textbook, many of the latest scientific discoveries were revealed in Quranic passages 1400 years ago. This is in stark contrast with the Bible, which contains numerous scientific errors. For example, regarding genetics, in Genesis 30:37-42, Jacob changes the characteristics of animal offspring by having their parents look at white stripes while mating.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
First, we will examine the Quranic verse that describes the location of seminal fluid prior to being discharged. The literal translation of the Quran, chapter 86, verses 6 and 7 is,
Man is created from gushing water, which comes out from between the backbone and the ribs.
in other words, just prior to gushing or coming out of the body, seminal fluid is located between the backbone and the ribs. At first glance, a layman might think that semen comes out from the testicles. While the sperm is produced in the testicles, neither is the sperm nor is the seminal fluid, which is essential for natural fertilization, anywhere near them prior to ejaculation. The verse specifically mentions the entire fluid of semen and not just the sperm component. So let's examine the process of emission, where all the components of semen are joined. Sperm is stored in the epididymis, which is not in the testicles, but above them. The sperm, which comprises 2 to 5% of the seminal fluid, travels from the epididymis up through the vas deferens duct and around the bladder. Together, the seminal vesicle and the prostate gland produce 90% of the fluid in semen. This mixture travels through the prostate and is joined by mucus from the bulbourethral glands just below the prostate. It is at this point that semen is fully formed, comprising both the sperm and the seminal fluids. As we can see, just prior to coming out of the body, all components of semen are mixed near the prostate, which is centered in the body, between the backbone and the ribs, or between the spine and the chest, which is between the back and front of the abdomen or torso, and most certainly not in the testicles or in the lower body at all. Someone might object to this by saying,
The ribs are too high to say that the prostate is between the backbone and the ribs.
To this objection we answer that the head is still between the shoulders, even though it is too high, and the genitals are still between the legs, even though they are too high. Now, let's check the verse again.
Man is created from gushing water, which comes out from between the backbone and the ribs.
This precise scientific description could not have been known 1400 years ago, and even today many people don't know it, as we will see next. Second, we will examine some false claims regarding the scientific accuracy of this verse. In reference to this verse, Answeringislam.org quotes a mistake by Dr. William Campbell.
We are left with the very real problem that the semen is coming from the back or kidney area and not the testicles.
In fact, as we saw earlier, semen does not come from the testicles. Only the sperm is produced there, which comprises 2 to 5% of the semen. The sperm cells travel to the prostate, where 95% of the gushing semen is produced. Next, let's also listen to the false claims of the person discuss Islam about this verse.
This description reflects the view of Hippocrates, common in the 5th century, that semen comes from all the fluid of the body and passes through the kidneys on the way to the penis. We now know that it comes from the testicles.
First of all, discuss Islam also falsely claims that semen comes from the testicles.
We now know that it comes from the testicles.
It is quite astonishing how those attacking Islam make the same layman errors without checking their facts.
Wow, I feel good.
In any case, the Quran does not contain the scientific errors of Hippocrates' view, such as that semen comes from all the fluid in the body, and that semen passes through the kidneys. As a result, contrary to discuss Islam's misrepresentation, there is no similarity whatsoever between this Quranic passage and the view of Hippocrates. Furthermore, let's examine some more of Hippocrates' related scientific errors that are, again, not in the Quran. Number 1, that sperm originate in the brain. Number 2, that both men and women produce sperm. Number 3, that healthy sperm is produced by healthy parts of the body. And number 4, that stronger sperm results in males, while weaker sperm results in females. In conclusion, the Quran clearly mentions the scientific fact before it was known about where semen becomes fully formed before gushing out. Semen includes the sperm and seminal fluids, which are both absolutely required for natural fertilization. The Quran accurately states that this fluid is between the backbone and the ribs prior to coming out of the body, as seen from the profile view of the male anatomy. Those attempting to discredit this Quranic verse only succeeded in displaying their own ignorance about the male reproductive system. In addition, trying to ascribe the numerous scientific accuracies from the Quran to philosophers like Hippocrates, who could rarely avoid scientific errors on any matter, is obviously quite ridiculous. As we have demonstrated, misrepresenting both the scientific facts and the views of ancient societies is not only the strategy but a fundamental requirement for people attempting to refute the Quran's overwhelming signs.
With John McClatchy, the science guy, we're looking at some of the scientific problems, and one of the ones that comes up all the time is the whole production of semen in the Quran. Help me with this one, because this is a real problem, isn't it?
Right, so if you open up your Quran and go to Surah 86, verses 5 through 7, you want to...
Let me read it here for you. Surah 86, verses 5 to 7 says, "So let man see from what he is created. He is created from a water gushing forth, proceeding from between the backbone and the ribs." Ooh la la. Go ahead.
Well, semen, of course, isn't produced between the loins and the chest bones as the Quran contends. Rather, it's produced in the seminal vesicle behind the bladder. Sperm is produced in the testes, and the semen is produced in the seminal vesicle behind the bladder. And so the Quran.
So it's much further down,
yeah, it's much
behind
further
the bladder. That's
right.
where the semen is produced, not way up here between the backbone and the rib,
right.
which is halfway up your body. It's got the wrong location.
Right.
Oh, so we've got a real problem here. Now, as a science person, you would say this is a huge scientific error.
Yeah, this is another scientific blunder in the Quran.
Even if they want to say it's not the sperm as well, we're talking about both and are still further down.
Yeah.
And as you know, the sperm itself has to be in a sac outside the body.
Yeah, because that has to be kept to low core body temperature. Otherwise, it needs to be, otherwise it overheats at its body temperature.
If it was up here in the backbone, it would be too warm to begin with.
Yeah.
It could not even be created. So, the fact that it's created in the wrong place is an error.
Yeah.
Now, would God make a mistake like that?
No, Allah certainly would have known where semen and sperm are produced.
He certainly would have, and he wouldn't have let us get away with that. Again, just another one of these errors, the Quran proving it's nothing more than a book made by men, not from God.
Now show me the backbone and the ribs. Maybe I'm wrong. Show me.
Your backbone starts from here all the way to your coccyx.
And so and the ribs.
Right.
Where's the ribs? So between the backbone and the ribs.
Where is it exactly?
Point it for me.
Now, I'm asking you. Point it.
You said I'm wrong, so I want you to point it.
Okay.
Your ribs comes up to here.
If you allow me,
your ribs comes up to here.
Okay.
If you allow me now
so
to once more
with the backbone, right? And what does it mean? Here, right?
I think it's
no. I want you to point it to me.
I will,
so that
if you
I
allow
can
me
understand from your point of view.
I will allow you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You may have totally forgotten the example that I gave you about who is me in between me and someone, or my friend in Marble Arch. Does it have to be someone in the middle? You said no. Do you remember?
Yes, right. I did. Yeah.
So when we talk about in between two reference points, it is not in between means in the middle. It could be anywhere in between, right?
I agree.
Right.
Yes.
So in between these two anterior and posterior, meaning front and the back part, that goes all the way from the backbone and the ribs. This covers a lot of area because the backbone is all the way, the ribs is all the way from here to there, and the backbone.
Yeah.
So in between, I'm asking you, in between this, can that point refer to in between?
This is not ribs.
So you don't understand what in between means?
No. Between.
Look,
wait.
That is why.
Let me explain.
I need to clarify further.
Okay. Let me explain. The ribs is in front of me.
Theo,
my backbone is behind me.
Theo,
okay.
That is why I need to clarify.
Let me say something.
But you will have the opportunity.
Okay.
The Prophet ﷺ said, "Whoever can guarantee what's in between their lips and in between their legs, he will guarantee paradise."
Yeah.
Now, what is in between your lips? Is it your tongue? Is it your teeth? Is it your glottis? What is it?
Between my lips.
Yeah.
Top and the lower.
What is in between?
It's my mouth, inside.
Could it be your teeth?
Could it be your tongue? Teeth, yes.
Right. So you cannot pinpoint anything, right? So this is a description in Arabic language when in between can refer to, well, what you say in between, right? In between your legs start from your hips to all the way at your toes. Do you see how much part that covers? But when the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever guarantees what is in between the legs, he's referring to the private parts, right? Which is a specific portion within that region. Do you follow so far?
Yeah.
So the phrase min bayna shay'ain, in between two things, it's not referring to something in the middle. First point. Secondly, when the Quran talks about in between the backbone and the ribs, somehow you think it must be in between these two component surfaces in the middle. I'm saying no, it's referring to the whole of this process. Yeah, because you have a cylinder describing what's inside it with the two reference points, the anterior and the posterior, that anything in between this can be explained. The abdomen is included. The abdomen, the lower and the head, they're all inclusive of that description. But you mistakenly understand that it refers to something intersecting these 2 points like in a straight line. The answer is no. This is a forced interpretation which is not true to the text.
Can I say this?
Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. Subhanallah والحمد لله